right. Welcome back to another episode of Love, Death, and Movies. This is episode 21.
21.
Woo. And I'm Ash, one of your hosts, and I am joined today with just me and the Lone Ranger over here, Harry Argyle. How are you today, Harry?
The Lone Ranger sounds so sad.
I don't know why that came to my mind. I did not mean it to sound sad.
Yeah, wow. Like, yeah, Valentine's Day just passed. Yeah, fair enough. Thanks, Ash.
I'm
Knife went a
sorry.
little bit deeper. It's okay. No, it's fine. Podcast already started. Taking shots, catching strays. That's what I do. I'm good, though, Ash. How are you?
Maybe I should have said partner in crime, not the Lone Ranger. That was
No,
the wrong phrase
I
to
like
use.
Army Hammer. He's a cannibal now, right? The guy, Army
Yeah,
Hammer.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, nice. Well, he's
Well,
hungry
as you
boy.
can see, we are missing Byron today. I'm doing well, Harry. Hopefully he will join us soon. But for now, we shall continue on. So you just get the dynamic duo here.
Ooh.
Um, Today we are talking about a new topic. It's a new month, so no more romance. So sad. Goodbye. We are moving on to sports in March. My favorite topic ever. I love sports.
I didn't know you didn't like sport movies until after we'd already like scheduled all the films, and now I feel bad, but at the same time there's some movies here that I can't wait to rewatch. And
No, I do not dislike sports movies. I would just say that it's not a genre I go to, and I don't necessarily love traditional
I get you.
sports movies.
Yeah,
But a lot of the ones we've chosen this month are not your typical just, basketball, baseball, football. So
that's
we're
true.
we're mixing it up a little bit.
That's true.
Before we get into the movie we're discussing today, which is 2017's I, Tonya, which is we're starting off with a sport that I find very interesting, figure skating.
Amen.
But before we get into that, how's your week been? What's been going on since I last talked to you?
I had a huge week. Monday I saw Taylor Swift.
Wow.
That was it was her fourth night in a row, and it's 3.5 hours, and she does not stop. I'm not. I wouldn't say now I'm a Swiftie, but I wouldn't say that I went in as a Swiftie. I don't dislike her music. It's just something I never look for, you know. But I'm very much in the mindset that it's undeniable that she is insanely talented.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the best concert I've ever been to. And I go to a lot of concerts. That in
Oh,
terms of production value, everything, it's also by far the loudest concert I've ever been to. Got
I
home at
believe it.
got home at midnight on a Monday night. Couldn't go to sleep till like 2 because my ears were ringing. So I'm either getting really old or she sings Bad Blood super loud. But it's
Might be both.
might be a bit both. Yeah, might be a bit of both. But that was cool. That was a good start to the week. I went to the Dune 2 premiere. Unreal. Go check out. I don't want to talk too much about Dune 2 because you're seeing it next week. But go check out my video on TikTok if you would like. Don't have to, but if you'd like. But then yeah, just work and just some good old work stuff. Not bad. Good week.
Nice.
How about yourself?
Yeah, it's a pretty okay week for me. Nothing really exciting. Finished off my dry February successfully, and I'm still going strong. So,
Well done.
second day of March, and yeah, it's been a good week for routine. I feel like I've gotten back into like a good routine with getting up and working out and just eating better and
Hell yeah.
started reading a book. I don't remember the last time I read a book.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's actually a really good book called The Nightingale. It's like super old. It's from like 9 years ago.
I've read The Nightingale.
Yeah, but I'm reading that for the first time. So just, trying to change it up and be productive. So
Well done, dude.
yeah, it's been a good week. But yeah, other than that, just work as well. So now it's the weekend and I'm very happy about that. So all right.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
we'll jump right into the movie then. And again, we're talking about I, Tanya. This is directed by Craig Gillespie.
Gillespie.
Gillespie, who we know from also directing Dumb Money, Lars and the Real Girl. He's done some other movies
He
that
has
I
a
know we both
vibe, doesn't
seen.
he? Like
Yeah.
he definitely has that like quirky sort of like
hmm
satirical vibe.
I really dig it. I like
So
it a
do I.
lot. I can imagine it's not for everybody, but I really do enjoy it. So yeah, I was not surprised when I saw that he was doing Dumb Money because I feel like the vibes and the way that that's edited and kind of directed kind of makes sense after you've seen I, Tanya. So yeah, I think he's an interesting director. But as far as a description of this movie goes as follows. Competitive ice skater Tanya Harding rises amongst the ranks at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, but her future in the sport is thrown into doubt when her ex-husband intervenes. So this is obviously what we would call a biopic. Um, this is about a real life person who is Tonya Harding. I did not really know much about her and this story before, but I'm curious to know, I guess, what your thoughts are generally on the movie before we break it down, and if you had any prior knowledge of the real life story. I'm curious.
I did um, not like super detailed knowledge of it, but I always knew about Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan, and
Hmm.
basically that like I always just grew up thinking that she did it. So
Hmm.
and but like I always thought we like in Australia, we're a sporting culture, and I always thought like I saw that story. I'm like at first you're like that's pretty horrible, and then there's a part of your mind you're like that's metal as fuck. Like that is metal
Yeah.
as fuck. But yeah, I grew up like I knew some of it, so this wasn't like a story that like I went in knowing absolutely nothing. But I really like this movie. This movie's great. I think it's exactly what you said. I think this is a perfect director for it. It's kind of the perfect vibe for this. You kind of know exactly what you're getting into when it starts. When it's just like these are all totally legitimate interviews, and like, and
Hmm.
you're like, okay, this is fun, and it kind of works for this character, this person. In a way, it's like it's incredibly heartbreaking as well for Tonya. That because again, we don't know everything behind closed doors, but from what we see in the film, that she didn't want any of this shit to happen. But we can get into that later. But in terms of the film overall, I really like it. I think the performances are brilliant. Specifically, Alison Janey. I thought
Hmm.
like even like Margot Robbie, of course, is a fantastic actress. No one will ever be able to deny that. And she's brilliant in this, and I think she got nominated for this. I know she
I
didn't
believe
win.
so.
Alison Janey won though for it, and
Hmm.
deservingly so, absolutely, because I thought for me stole this film. But yeah, I thought it's incredibly like it's quirky but heartbreaking is kind of how
Hmm.
I describe this film. But it's great. I really enjoyed it. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's such a heartbreaking story in the sense of what happens at, like by the end, but they tell it in such a satirical, comedic way that you find yourself laughing and you're like, wait, should I be laughing or should I be empathizing with this character more? So it is interesting the way they approached it, but I think it kind of works, like you said, for who Tanya was. I
Yeah,
don't think that a story like with the the vibes of other sports movies we've seen that are a bit more emotional and a bit more like raw into that side of it would really work here. So I think it's perfect for the type of story they're telling. I agree. I think that Alison Janey is fantastic. I find it interesting. The first time I watched it, I thought the same thing, but watching it a second time, she's not really in it that much. But
she's
she
not.
makes such a big impact, I feel like, on the audience with the way she plays that character. I've always thought she was super talented, so it's always nice to see when she gets recognized for that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good movie. I don't think it'll ever be like a favorite of mine. I don't think it's like amazing, but I think it's really good. And I think for what it is, it captures so much of it perfectly, and does it in a really unique way. So,
yeah. Just to add on that for one sec, the as we were saying, like this is kind of filmed and told as if it's like a cartoon, in a
mhm,
way of just how comedic it is, and at times, as you said, it's just like these things that are happening are pretty serious and pretty like heartbreaking and haunting in a way.
mhm,
But like the way it's told is comedic, and I like absolutely because of Tonya Harding, but it's also the people around her, and you don't really understand that until you see the credits and the interviews, and that's real footage of these real like the guy saying like I've got training around the world in espionage, you're like,
yeah,
and like who Paul Walter Hauser, by the way, unreal in this film.
yes,
He's spectacular. Is
mhm,
Mom, just one more time.
mhm,
Help us out here, Mom. I love him. But you realize that those people are real people, and that's kind of why this kind of
yep.
tone is perfect for it. Is because every character in this fucking movie is a cartoon character. I love it.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think it's one of those ones where people could easily say, is this really all how it went down? Or,
Exactly. Yeah.
you kind of question it, but I think that when you actually see real footage, you kind of understand, at least from a character study perspective, they did a pretty spot on job with the actors as far as representing the real life people in a very authentic way, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So awesome. Okay, well, I have broken this down into 8 parts. I know that sounds like a lot, but it is a 2 hour movie. So that's the best I could do for you, Harry.
It's also a whole podcast. So don't worry.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Sorry, guys. This ain't a
Yes,
TikTok.
sorry. This is not going to be the Spark Notes version. But I did do 8 parts, so I'll talk about 2 parts at a time. So I'm going to give you part one and part
Cool.
two, and then we'll talk about them, kind of like that after 2 parts at a time. So part one, I have who was Tonya Harding?
Oh, well, let's find out.
Let's find out. So the movie opens with the initial interviews, which is in the more present time of the movie, which is when she is older. So I think she's somewhere in her early, I think it's probably like mid 40s, actually. I think about 43 years old. So we have her getting interviewed. We have the mom being interviewed, talking about her birds. We have obviously the ex-husband. And it's interesting how they decided to shoot this, I think, where it's, the screen's all black and it's just kind of like a square in the middle of the screen, when we're doing the interviews that are supposed to mimic real life interviews, but obviously they are actors.
Yeah.
And then we move into directly back to 40 years ago in Portland, Oregon, once we kind of have our introduction. So we get to shoot right back to when she is just a little 3-year-old, and we see her initial skate journey, which is insane to think that she started when she was 3. We kind of go through her mom, finding Diane, and, obviously getting to see how wonderfully eloquent she is, as a person and how she treats people. Good old God, I'm like blanking on the mom's name already, the character's name.
I'll get it. I'll get it.
I think it's like Ivana or something Vana.
Lavana.
And what is it?
Lavana.
Lavana,
Yeah,
thank you.
very close, very close. Yeah.
And she wins her first competition at 4 years old. So I think you kind of just set the tone already of how talented this child is. We go through, scenes seeing her mom and kind of how their relationship is. Obviously, she's the kindest mother that we've ever seen in existence. So that's really sweet to get to watch. That nice scene where she beats her in the bathroom. I literally was like, Jesus Christ, this is your child. Like,
She has
what are
so
you
many
doing?
lines. It's like, no, there's no
So
smoking on the ice. Okay, I'll smoke it quietly. Like,
right, right.
oh,
Yeah, like
she's
she's
great.
talking about like someone yelling, and she's like, okay, I'll keep it down.
Yeah.
And then we see just that kind of that constant criticism, and the mom obviously relaying that she believes this is what motivates Tonya. This is what keeps her fighting, is her mom basically breaking her down constantly. And then we have that heartbreaking scene where her father leaves, her parents get divorced. That scene is so sad to me.
Yeah.
Shout out McKenna Grace, who plays younger Tonya, who's also played the younger version of many other actresses in lots of movies. It's like the third or fourth time she's done a similar type of role where she plays the young version
She's great.
of an actress. Yeah, I really enjoy her. She's up and coming at this point. Obviously, she's an adult now, but yeah, she does a great job. Okay. And then we move into part two. This is another kind of a short section, but this is the beginning of our toxic romance.
Oh, here
So
we
we
go.
get into high school now, where she has those beautiful braces and that just wonderful haircut.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right?
Have we?
I mean, I've had braces and I've had some pretty rough hairdos, okay, Harry?
Yeah, okay, well.
Not all of us have always had great hair.
Well, that's fair enough.
So we have her meeting Jeff at the ice rink. We have that awkward first date with her mom
I
there.
loved that.
Just fully breaking her down in front of Jeff, asking him questions that probably a mother shouldn't be asking, but nothing we wouldn't expect from her character. And then her and Jeff are talking as he's working on the car. She comes over and sort of, I think, shows him how forward she can be, how she's different than other girls. She's kind of not afraid to just sort of say what she's thinking. I think she just point blank asks him if he likes her, and then they share their first kiss. And then we start seeing these fun scenes of how abusive their relationship got very early on, which this is where for me it starts to really become uncomfortable. So I think that with the satirical kind of undertone that they chose to use, it makes it more bearable to watch, because in a
Yeah.
normal setting, you would not be able to just watch this movie where this girl is just getting beat to shit by her boyfriend and she's 16 years old, and it be something you can just like be okay with watching. But I think because of the song choices and the way they shoot it, it comes off, which sounds so bad, but it comes off like more as a comedy. So then it kind of takes you out of it a little bit, which I think helps. Otherwise, I think it would be really uncomfortable, which it still is to a certain extent, but I do think it helps the tone of the movie a little bit.
Yeah, this could
In
have
my
easily
opinion.
been like an A24 film.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we get to see kind of a lot of different, scenarios worked through of where they are, having that abusive relationship. The mom's very aware of it and doesn't really seem to want to do anything to stop
Yeah,
it.
she doesn't care.
Obviously, she doesn't give a shit. And then we kind of get our first, I believe, fourth wall break where she gets in the car, I think, with Jeff, and then she looks at the camera and she says something. And it's the first time that, like, as not the interview moment, the character breaks the fourth wall, which I think is really interesting. So that's sort of where we end off part two, kind of, her childhood and then her teenage years, her start with Jeff. So anything for you that stands out in these scenes, anything that you particularly like here? And then what are your thoughts on sort of that fourth wall break
Yeah,
that kind of continues?
it gives me an Adam McKay vibe. Like
That's exactly what I was thinking.
yeah, like they're like Big Short. Like this is kind of just what I feel like they're kind of similar tones in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with it being like a satirical look on a true story.
Yep.
Everything you said is perfect. Like the whole introduction scene, like it really, I like it seems fun, but I see it as heartbreaking because you
Mm-hmm.
obviously has so much potential, and everything that happened to her, I think it's always like a product of her upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
and like the environment she was brought up in. Like if she hadn't met Jeff, if she was raised by a fairer family, maybe she would have been like gold world champion.
Yeah.
She had the talent obviously, and she had the drive behind it. But everything that was like surrounding her kind of deterred her in a way. Which that's how I see the opening scenes. But also just the introduction of Alison Janey is just so fucking good, and I love it how it's like. When she's like, I was 12 years old, and it cuts to Margot Robbie playing a 12-year-old.
I think she's 15 at that
15,
point.
yeah. I was like, that's
Yeah, but
fucking
still,
nuts. I was like, that took me off guard.
agreed.
But she's great. Like at the first, I loved this romance because it's like she'd never been told like you look pretty or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
and she just fell for the first guy that told her that, which
Yep.
is classic. Um, but yeah, I agree with everything you say. It's a really interesting point you bring up of like the music tones and like the way it's shot. How these scenes that are like domestic violence is never funny, but
Mm-hmm.
they make it like a humorous take, and it's interesting to think like why, because like we can think of like this whole film satirical, everything we said, like they're all cartoon characters in a way, but like these things shouldn't really be seen that way in the same sort of
Mm-hmm.
category, but in a way they're like this whole world that they live in is a cartoon bubble, in a way. So like,
Yeah.
I think it's also important that they show I can't, well, let me get his name, Sebastian Stan's character Jeff.
Jeff. Yeah.
Jeff is like so not intimidating at all throughout this whole
Mm-mm.
film. Like he's just a scrawny little man, but he's definitely got a power complex, obviously, because that's what he does, and he's obviously got a lot of anger issues. But yeah, from that to this, to where we're at now, I do just get a really big Adam McKay vibe. But I really liked that date scene. I thought that scene was like
Agreed.
it's the perfect, even if that didn't happen, which we just don't know. Them arriving to the date and Alice and Jenny just walking past the waitress, we'll get a table. I'm like, is so good. But yeah, I love this
Agreed.
side of this film. This is great.
Yeah, I think those were all great points. And like you said, it is interesting because none of it should be funny. And I don't think it's funny to watch, but it is, I think, important to show because I think you're correct. I think
It's a
any
good point.
story like this is important to tell because it really does show in the big picture class, income, where you're from, what kind of family you have. All these things impact what kind of like privilege and opportunity you have. So it's like, yes, she had the talent. She had the opportunity by having, the coach that was there in her town, but she didn't have money. They couldn't afford to buy, so it's just all these things that were out of her control led to, I think, a lot of what happened later. But at the same time, it never really was enough to demotivate her, which is,
Yeah.
I think, really interesting and which I think is a cool part of her story that they show is just how much she wanted it no matter what. And she didn't want to be anybody else. She wanted to just be herself and be able to do this the way that she wanted to, even though she had all these things working against her that were completely outside of her control. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting. Okay, well, we move into part three and four. So, part three is just the 12 months later. Obviously, it goes across the screen. I didn't have any creative name for this
Hey, it's still
section.
good. You know what you're getting with this. It's on the
Yeah,
tin. It does what it says on the tin.
Exactly. So this is where we start to get into the real skate competition starting. So I love her routine here. We get to see dancing to, or I guess dancing, skating to ZZ
ZZ
Top.
Top, yeah,
Like, how
ZZ
metal
Top.
is that as a teenager, just
I
going in
love it.
hot with ZZ Top?
ZZ
I
Top, by
find
the
that
way,
routine so great.
fucking great. I love
Oh
ZZ
yeah,
Top. ZZ Top rules.
yeah, it's awesome. I think that I'll talk about it again later, so I don't want to get into it right now. But just the soundtrack in this movie,
Oh yeah,
one of my favorites.
top tier.
Okay, and then we have, I know I'm missing probably some little scenes, but I think one of the biggest ones to really stick with you is her mother throwing a knife at her,
Oh yeah,
into her arm, and they just both are like, what did you just do to me right now?
yeah,
She finally leaves home. And I think this is a big moment where she's, this person is not in high school. She's been taken out of school to focus her whole life solely on skating, no education, and she's moving in with her adult boyfriend, basically, as a 17-year-old. So that moment I think is really pivotal into like where the rest of her story is going to go. So obviously she moves in with Jeff. They think it's going to be all, sweet and great, young love. Obviously, we know that's not going to be the case.
yeah.
We see her do another competition. This is the one where she addresses the judges directly and kind of just goes off and cusses at them. And it's just like, why don't you like me? And just is just kind of unloading because she's kind of sick of her scores not matching, obviously, her performance.
Yeah.
We have her and Jeff getting married, which is something, but expected. Obviously, her mom comes to the wedding, but she's clearly not happy for her, not supportive. She doesn't. I love when she's like in the photo, she just kind of like half stands there and walks away. Like they don't even
Yeah.
snap a photo, and she's just like so half-assing it. She doesn't even care.
She has that great line where like it's terrible to say to your daughter on her wedding day. It's like
Hmm.
where it's like you fuck dumb, you don't marry dumb. It's like like
Yes.
it's like you can't talk. like
Basically telling her she's marrying the first guy that told her she's pretty, essentially
yeah.
what you said earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now we get into it being time for nationals, and this is where we get that impressive routine with the triple axle, not the, I wrote down three axle, but I knew that was wrong. Triple axle.
I'm with you.
And that scene is so cool. Obviously, she gets a lot of praise here, and this is where we kind of see that people are kind of really starting to see what she can bring to the table.
Hmm.
So it's really cool to watch her obviously land that and get that the way that she wanted it to be. I think the way they filmed this scene is really interesting. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts when we get to the end of the sections, but how they kind of do the slow motion in the air of her kind of spinning around. It's very interesting. It almost looks animated, which is where
Yeah.
the cartoon aspect comes back in, but I think it's really interesting. And then this section leaves off where we see the beginning of her leaving Jeff. This is just the first time of
Yeah.
her attempting to leave him, obviously, and that does not work out for her. So part 4 is the rise and fall of a star.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. I like that. I'm a big fan of that's probably my favorite
Yeah,
one yet.
thank you. Appreciate that. So we have a lot more skating competitions. I'm just kind of lumping these all together because we do see, kind of a couple sequences, and then we have her kind of continuing to try that triple axle again and again. And this is where she starts to sort of struggle to get it right again, and she's sort of falling and not able to complete it the way that she previously did. We have her first getting back with Jeff. This is where she sort of starts to question if being with him is correlated to her ability to skate. I feel like this is a kind of a thing she struggles with throughout the entire film. I don't know if this is real, if she actually believed this, or it's just a toxic relationship and she convinced herself somehow that was the reason. But I feel like in the movie they portray it like the characters questioning if being with him and having that consistency or that life somehow is linked to her career going the way she wants it.
Which is a pretty
So
mature way to think about it.
yeah,
Especially with someone like because she dropped out of high school and everything. Like she doesn't
right.
have a higher education. Like I was like you get these are the type of scenes where you really see like she's a good person.
Hmm.
Like everything that happens and like we'll get in. I'm sure we'll get into it. Like from what we know, she doesn't want that to happen. Like she's a decent person. She's just a bit
Yep.
rough around the edges. That's
She
all it is.
is. And there's many people who are rough around the edges
Yeah.
who do a lot of great things in life. It doesn't matter if you're not that traditional, wholesome, person.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have her getting back with Jeff, and then this moves us into the 1992 Olympics. So this is the first time she goes. This actually is where she comes in fourth, which I think is still very impressive.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's one of the like, she's so young and she's still coming in fourth, which is so impressive. I love this flashback though, where she's basically saying, this is where we start to see Tonya say a lot of, she says this multiple times throughout the movie that like things aren't her fault. And she's like, I was doing all the right things. This was not my fault. And then we flash back to her like binge eating and binge drinking for the
Yeah,
last 2 months. Like she's clearly not taking care of herself and doing what she needs to do, which is interesting that she thinks being with Jeff is good for her career, yet every time she's with him, it's bad for her career.
yeah.
So it's very interesting to see that like parallel happen as an audience member. We have Jeff going full psycho. This is where he gets the gun and he puts it on Tonya. Ends up shooting at her and grazing her eye. She's bleeding. Makes her get in the car with him. You know, they drive. We have that scene where the cop pulls him over. Doesn't even worry about the fact that she's sitting there, clearly bloody.
That was a
Just
great scene from her, where
great
it's like
scene.
turns to the camera
Yeah.
and goes, "Doesn't even mention me." I was like, "Doesn't even
Yep.
mention the bloody girl or whatever." That was great
Yeah. Horrible, but kind of, speaks to the time.
for sure.
And then she ends up working at a restaurant and she's just basically waitressing because her career isn't really doing what she wanted it to do at that point after the Olympics. She needs money, so she's working there. And then this is where we have Diane finding her outside of the diner, wanting to give her another chance, trying to convince her to try again. There's another Olympics, she says, in 2 years now instead of four. And she tells her to lose the nail polish and obviously like listen to her this time around and things will work out. I think it's like lose the blue nail polish,
Yeah.
and she's going to help her out. So that is where we leave off part 4, and then we move into part 5, which is the second chance. So she begins training with Diane again. We have a lot of fun sequences here. This is what I was going to bring up about the music, the soundtrack. I love all these scenes of her training, and the song choices that they use. It's so good. I think this honestly is one of my favorite soundtracks. It has so
Yeah,
many of
it's
my favorite
great.
songs already, just used in such a brilliant way. The way that they choose to use the songs, I just love. So just wanted to mention that real quick. And then we have her finding that judge in the parking garage. This is where I feel like we as an audience get to really see the true reason why Tonya is not somebody they want at the head of figure skating, because this was the early 90s and this was still that like post Reagan era in the US, and obviously the country was really into figure skating. Like I remember even being a kid in the early 2000s and my parents always had figure skating on. I feel like there was a period of time where this was super popular, but they basically tell her that she doesn't represent the wholesome American family and she doesn't have the image that they're looking for the top figure skater. So
Heartbreaking.
that's just horrible. I mean, it's just unbelievable that they would be choosing people and giving scores based on who has the wholesome look and who has that, family, which this is where it really speaks to privilege, I think, because it's not Tanya's fault that she doesn't have money, that she doesn't
Yeah,
have a wholesome family. She can't control any of that.
it's the environment
And
she
it's
was
absolutely
like born
unfair.
in. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
about the environment, which again this goes to show everything we've been talking about.
Yep. Yeah, so that scene's really, really brutal, I think. And then we again have her questioning if Jeff is going to make her career work. She basically convinces herself to stick it out with him to get to the Olympics again. This is where we sort of start with the discussions of the incident, this incident that happened, mysterious incident.
I love it.
So this is kind of where it first comes up about halfway through the movie almost, and essentially it starts out with this death threat letter. And initially Jeff mails this to mess with Tanya's head, and then it becomes this whole thing where this letter is going to now involve Nancy Kerrigan, and Sean Sean has to get involved, get his guys on it,
I
because
love
they want to
Sean.
mail
Yeah.
the letter from the right location to make it seem legitimate and not trace it back to where they're located. This is where Sean really, I think, starts to become just such a hysterical character in this whole second chunk of the movie. So this turns into the mess about a threat to hurt Nancy, and this is kind of where we start to move into a bit more of a drama thriller and less of just a
Yeah,
sports movie. So
a bit
that's
of
the end of part
espionage.
5. We'll end off there before we really get into the details of Nancy. But yeah, what do you think about these two sections? This is kind of like the beefiest part of the film. I feel like this is where like a lot happens.
Is
So
is it like one of my favorite scenes? Is this the part where Jeff is calling Tonya from Sean's house, Sean's parents' house? because that's one of my favorite scenes. It's just like, one more time, please. Yeah, mom, just let him one more time. Same number, and like calls
Yeah,
him
that
again.
definitely happens in this chunk.
I love that. Like, I just the dynamic between Sean and Jeff, I think, is one of the funnest
Hmm.
things to watch in this. But again, like as we've hopped on this a lot of the how much they're cartoon characters. Like you look at everything Sean does, and you're like, there's no way that someone actually says all this shit.
Right?
We're just like, I've been pursued by various intelligence agencies, and the reporter's like, no, you haven't. He's like, I think I have.
Yeah.
But then you see in the credits like that he actually said every word, which is hilarious. Now these are great. The it's kind of like the brutality of a single is it called single like solo sports like this, especially
Hmm.
when it goes to, and she kind of explains it well when she goes to Olympics and she gets fourth, which we can agree fourth in the world is unbelievable.
Right.
But fourth doesn't get you sponsorships, and that's what's going to pay you through this. You need
Right.
sponsorships. So that's the brutality, the brutal truth of sports like this, of like, if you don't get sponsorships, you're not going to be able to do this full time. If you're not able to
Hmm.
pay your way through it, like, how are you going to do this? And again, like, she needs sponsorships to do this because of her upbringing. She's not, as you said, she
Right.
doesn't come from money. But yeah, but I did love the tonal shift of when it comes to the incident.
Yeah.
Because again, she's out of the loop here, like very much so. And then like even after it, like Jeff is freaking out, which we'll get into. Jeff is freaking out, and she's just like, "What are you freaking out about?" Like
Yeah.
she's like so like not about it. I really enjoyed that, but no, I think this is a great lead up. Again, it's all exposition and it's all just to like cement these characters.
Hmm.
About exactly like who they are around Tonya and why they're all kind of leeches in a way. They're just
Yeah.
like leeching off this like success that she's seeing, but Tonya is the heart of it, of course.
Yeah, I realized that I made a mistake. I did three parts there and I meant to stop
That's all
before
right.
I got into the second chance. So did a bit more than I meant to. So sorry, there's a lot there in those three parts to unpack. But yeah, I'll just do the next three parts all together and we can kind of talk about all of it because it kind of all relates. It's
Yeah.
basically, the incident, what happens after. But I did have one question for you. I was curious your thoughts on that we see a little bit throughout the center of the movie here, and that's the fact that we have regular like footage that we're watching like a normal movie, right? We have the present time like video footage that's supposed to mimic what happened in the real story, obviously. And then we have this third type of footage, which is like similar to the other types of footage, but it shows like the kind of squigglies on the camera and the evidence and the date. What do you think about like the combo of all these three types of storytelling, like mixed kind of together and not really consistent?
Yeah,
I was curious.
it's kind of like um on purpose being off-putting.
Yeah.
Deliberate is the word I'm thinking. Deliberately off-putting. Which I liked it, but it kind of like it gives you, because you're watching this as a film that it's all like from the outset it looks very satirical, and you're not
Hmm.
sure what's right, what's real, and what's not. And they've even said that from the beginning. They're like kind of, got like walking that line. But then these like sort of like intercut scenes, you're like, oh wait, this actually happened. Like it's kind of like a jolt
Yeah.
back to reality in a way. They're like, as you said, like a lot of these scenes are filmed in a way that is comedic, when they definitely shouldn't be, and it kind of gives you like a touch into, oh, this is just a fantasy. But those kind of scenes just do jolt you back to reality, which is
Hmm.
how I see them. How do you see them?
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually really enjoy it. I was just curious because I do think the first time I watched the movie, it did throw me off a little bit how
Yeah,
inconsistent it flashes between the three types. But the second watch, I actually, even though I lowered my rating just ever so slightly, just the first time you watch something, sometimes there's like that like initial like ooh, and then you kind
buzz.
of
Yeah,
realize, yeah. But I still actually like this aspect of it more. I think it really flows nicely and it does help kind of just tie everything together and also just put you back in the mindset of like, remember this is a biopic, remember this is like supposed to be footage of interviews. Like it almost like takes you out of the main type of camera work that
for
we're
sure.
seeing for, I would say, like more than half the movie. So I do kind of like that it does that, but I think it's funny that they mostly do the mock like evidence type camera shots with Sean, not with everyone else. It's
Yeah,
specifically with him, which I just think is kind of a funny little aspect into
Well,
it.
that's
But
how he kind of sees it in his mind, right? Like,
exactly.
yeah, he thinks he's the star of this thing.
I think that's what kind of works. It's really like multi-layered, which
Yeah,
is really funny.
he's so funny in it. Like, he talk about perfect casting. Paul
Yes,
Walter Hauser in this film is perfectly cast.
agreed. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we can move into part six. I think I'll do part six and seven, and then we can save the finale part
Sure,
just on its own because it is kind of a lot. So, part six is what really happened to Nancy Kerrigan.
let's find out.
Let's find out.
Let's unpack it.
So, in these scenes, we have Sean telling Jeff that he needs more money, and they keep talking about this plan they need to call off. And Jeff is just like freaking out. And again, like you mentioned, Tanya's just like, "What are you freaking out about? I don't understand." And then I love that scene in the ice skating rink where Tanya yells at Sean. She just like rips him a new one.
Yeah,
It's just like, Sean, you're just, she just kind of lays it on him. And my assumption is that this really hurt his ego. And this is the moment that really set him off, that he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to push forward with all of this. Because he
yeah,
kind of already ignited it. But this, I feel like, was the moment that he was kind of just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. She's going down. She just like totally made me look like a loser in front of my best friend. And I don't like her.
yeah.
So this kind of progresses into the hitmen who we have ending up going to the location where Nancy's practicing. We have these two guys. We have the driver. We have the guy who gets out, who ends up sneaking in. How this guy just sneaks in and just casually wanders in holding this stick. I don't know if that's how it actually went down, but if so, where's the security?
Yeah.
Where's anyone to try to see what this guy's doing? He looks so sketchy from the second he walks in.
Yeah, he does. But like, that's the sign of the times, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pre-terrorist attacks. Like it's
Yeah.
very, yeah, like
Yeah.
pre metal
Schools were very
detectors.
different in America before
Yeah.
before 2001.
Well,
We'll just say
worldwide.
that.
Yeah, worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have him wandering in, and then he ends up asking somebody, which one's Kerrigan. He ends up finding her. She ends
I
up walking
love
down
that
the
though.
hallway.
Where
Yeah.
he doesn't even know who he's doing it
No,
to.
no clue. What if
Yeah.
the person was wrong? He's just gonna hit some random woman.
It's so
God,
funny.
it's so bad.
Again, it's a real thing that happened. This woman got her knee destroyed,
Mhm.
and like we're laughing about it.
I know we really shouldn't be, but it ends up just everything has such a like satire undertone to it. But yeah, he ends up finding Nancy, walks by her, whacks her on the knee. She yelps out, crying, and then he just walks away. Has to break the glass with his head to
Yeah.
get out because he got in, but every door on the inside is chained shut.
There's a door
Like
straight to his right that says exit. He doesn't look.
he's just such a dumbass. That's what this
Yeah.
whole scene shows is this guy is just so dumb, but manages to pull this off somehow.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he gets away. He beats some guy on the street that sees him, and then they get away. And then we sort of have Nancy's story on the news. So Tanya finds out what's happening, is like asking Jeff what's going on. It's all over the news. Nancy, got hit in the knee. And then Jeff approaches Sean, who this is where he approaches him at his parents' house, I believe. And he's just like, won't even admit anything really happened or that he was a part of anything. And I love that he's just like basically saying he's just like the best bodyguard that
I'm
exists.
6
Like
steps
he's just
ahead.
the protector. What?
I'm 6 steps ahead.
Yeah. So ahead, so smart.
I love it.
This guy is just the best word I could think of to describe. He's just like I don't want to say like a goob, but that's like the word that's coming to my mind. Just like such a goofball. Like he's just like such a goober. I don't know. It's just
He lives
so
in a
funny.
fantasy land where he thinks
Yeah.
he's made up. He's so like no, like what am I trying to think of? Where he's like made himself like a hero of all, like, and
Yeah.
he's just
In his
chose
story.
to believe it.
Uh-huh.
He's like, oh, those guys need money. They're out there stranded in Ohio right now, and it's just like again 6 steps ahead. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's so
Yep.
funny.
So that's where we leave off on that part. And then we sort of jump forward into the real fall of Tonya Harding. Before was sort of the minimal fall of her career, and then she kind of got back up. And now this is the real true fall.
Yeah.
And I put in parentheses, thanks to Jeff and Sean. And probably her mother a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So we have the 1994 competition. So one scene I do really love here is where her mom watches her on the TV from work. This is the only moment in the entire movie where I feel like we as an audience get a little glimmer of her being proud for like a second,
Yeah.
watching her daughter on that TV and because she's not there with her, she can actually look proud. She
Yeah.
can't let her know that to her face. But that moment I really think is special, where you get to see like a little bit of humanity within her, which is really interesting. We have the hitman who obviously assaulted Nancy, gets arrested. And then this is where like the interviews from the FBI start up. There's obviously a lot of scenes here back and forth with them questioning. And then Sean tells the FBI that Jeff did it. And then they meet up at the diner. They're kind of talking about what happened. There's some whispering in the ear going on. I think Jeff's kind of catching on that something's up. We have the FBI listening in on their conversation. And then we have Jeff telling Tonya later. I don't know if I want to say this whole quote directly out loud because I don't like this word. You know, I don't like this word. But he says, "Keep your mouth shut, you stupid fucking C word that I don't like to say." So I wrote down, that's just another day in
Cougar.
Australia, right?
Cougar.
You
Yes.
guys use that word like it's nothing.
Yeah, we've got a saying down here that I probably shouldn't say.
But anyways, that moment when he looks at her and she's like, "Keep your fucking," I'm just like, Jesus, this guy is literally so unhinged
Yeah.
when she's done nothing wrong. This just really goes to show, I think, how someone like Jeff, who really, like you said, is just kind of a loser. He's just like a small guy. He's just got nothing really going for him. He just uses his words and his anger and getting loud to think that he has power over people.
Yeah.
And he just really has none. So I think this moment just really shows everything that's been building up in his character. He's just a piece of shit and he's just got nothing going for him. And then Tonya obviously questions him about if he did it. And we kind of just have a lot of build up to the final moment of when she finally kind of goes against him, which is kind of where we'll start off the final conclusion. So anything to kind of point out here in this, what happened to Nancy, what kind of led up to Tonya getting more involved, and obviously the back and forth of the FBI investigating it.
Yeah, like I think they filmed this perfect, or they told this section perfectly because it's like it's so stupid what they did,
Mm-hmm.
and like the reasoning behind it is even more stupider. Like these guys are so out of the loop of this. It's fucking ice skating at the end of
Yes.
the day. Like if we go bottle it down. But I do love how is this where Sean gets pressed by the FBI and then
Yeah.
that's right. When he opens the door, it's like you Sean? I can't remember his last name. You Sean? He's like no, and then the mother comes and goes, Shawnee, you want some dinner?
Yeah.
Like, I love that, but he just shows like who he is because like again like he has this like super tough exterior that he like gives off there. Like he knows espionage from all over the world. He's got intelligence agencies asking to work with them, and then he gets 2 seconds into an interrogation. He's like, Jeff did it. Like instantly
Yep.
crumbles, which is awesome. But yeah, at the same time, this really does highlight. Again, we don't know. This is all just from what we're told. This does highlight how much Tonya was just out of the loop, and this wasn't her decision.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't. And I'm hoping that I'm guessing correctly that like she wouldn't have wanted this to happen, at all. So that in that retrospect, it is quite heartbreaking that
It
all this
is.
happens, especially because I'm sure you're going to get into the courtroom scene, which I think is her best performance in this film. That scene. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything. I don't have too much more to add here. I think it is just sort of where we get to watch further how other people and other situations outside of her control are impacting her career and her life, and it's just not fair. But it's also from the movie perspective, it is sort of making you question, did she know about this? Did she have involvement? It's one of those things where when you don't know the real story, you do kind of start to wonder, like, is she really that out of
Yeah.
the loop? Is she not? I found myself questioning it, and it's like, why? It's because I feel like they built up her character to be this person who maybe she would go to all ends to get her justice because she knows she deserves it, even though the judges won't allow it because she's not that image. So it does make you wonder, like, how far will someone go to get their dream? And so I think in that sense, it does kind of make you question it, even though logically it probably makes the most sense that Jeff and Sean were behind the whole thing, because that's very clear that they have really nothing going for them
That's
in their own
really
life.
it. They're no one without
Yeah.
like they're just trying to like claw onto
And she's
this
someone.
poor girl.
Yep. Yeah,
From
agreed.
what we know.
Yes, from what we know. Okay, well, the last part is the final conclusion of the movie. So, again, this is where I found the first scene to be kind of where she decided to go against him and talk to the feds. And this is kind of where we actually see the end of this toxic couple. Finally, after hour and a half of watching their relationship, it finally
Did
starts to come to the end.
Did you have a fun name for this part, or was it just the
I just called
conclusion?
it the final conclusion. I
How
don't have
about I want
fun.
to, I want to like I'm gonna suggest a title and you can swat it away. This is like absolutely.
Okay.
What about Tonya gets iced?
I love it.
Yep, Tonya gets iced. There we go.
That's perfect. This is
Cause
why I keep you around, Harry. See
yeah,
that creative mind.
cause she's an ice skater. That's where it
Is
comes from.
she?
Yeah, that's the connection.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I
There you
didn't get
go.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Sorry, continue.
Perfect. Okay. Tanya gets iced. Here we go.
Nice.
So yes, the end of this toxic couple. So I love the scene of them walking away. I don't think it's from the courtroom, but it's walking away, I think, from the press conference or walking maybe into the press conference. But Sean looks back at the camera in like a slow-mo shot, like he's some espionage spy bodyguard. And I think that is the most hysterical thing. He's still walking there, like supporting her when he caused this.
Yeah.
This guy, he's something else. I
I
can't
love
with
him.
him.
Paul Walter Hauser. I want to shake your
Ugh,
hand.
dude, he plays it so well. So yeah, that moment is just hysterical to me. But basically, Tanya has now become a form of famous, but for all the wrong reasons, not for the reasons she wanted, because she's hated essentially for being
Mm-hmm.
involved with all this. They think that it's her fault, that she was the reason that it happened. I love this scene with her and her mom is, kind of saying she's on her side, and we start to see her like say she's proud of her. We think, oh, wholesome Lavana
Oh,
now. Wait a second. No, this is the
Lavana,
woman that threw a
darling.
knife at her daughter's arm. This is not supportive mother. She's just trying to fish, and she has a recording device in her pocket, and Tanya sees right through it, which I think is so awesome. So that scene's pretty brutal. And then we have Tanya apologizing to the press for Jeff and about the situation and the attempt to appease the press. I think is kind of the idea there at the direction of her skating kind of staff, I guess you can call them, her coach. And then we have the Olympic Committee trying to kick her off the team. I don't think this is the scene you're talking about in the courtroom. You're talking about later when she actually gets her
Band.
sentencing and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is where they show a brief courtroom scene, but it's where the Olympic team is making up a decision about if she's going to be able to compete or not. She ends up being able to compete, and I found it interesting. I don't know if you caught this, but I did not catch it the first time, but I caught it this time. They show a really brief moment. It's not even like 10, 15 seconds, but they show real footage of Tanya and Nancy in real life for just a brief moment
Oh,
right
really? I
before
didn't.
the
Yeah.
Olympics, right after they agree to let her go. They show a scene of Tanya walking in and Nancy walking in, and it's the real women. And then
That's
they just
cool.
cut back to the regular movie. It's really interesting to me that they just did it for that moment.
Wow. No, I'll go. I'm probably going to go back after this and watch that.
Yeah, watch it because I was like, wait, that wasn't Margot Robbie. What did I just watch? And I didn't catch it the first time. So it's interesting.
Interesting.
I don't know if they did that to really show like the true reactions of those two people in that moment, which if they did, that's kind of powerful. But then we go back to basically right before her competition. We have this is my favorite moment in the movie, and this is where she's putting on her makeup
Yeah.
and she's
Oh,
smiling, crying, the bright red lipstick, bright red blush. It's not even really bright. It's kind of more like a dark toned red. But that scene just, I think, almost showcases all the emotion, all this build up her whole life, kind of all in one moment. And in my mind, I almost took it like she knows what's about to happen, but she's really like hoping that it's not going to happen the way she thinks it is. But she kind of almost knows that this is kind of the end for her,
yeah.
which I think is really sad. So I really love that scene. Obviously, she's crying. We have a lot of emotional moments with her skates. Her ties aren't working the way they're supposed to. She's really stressed out. She goes to the judges. They actually let her fix her ties. And then we don't get to see the performance. We just kind of go straight to finding out that she won eighth. And this is kind of where we then get into the actual sentencing that I think you were talking about, where we
Yeah.
find out what she gets sentenced. And this whole scene is really just like focused on Margot's face, if
Yeah.
I'm correct, on this moment where they're
She's such a
announcing
great actress, man.
she's just one of the
She's
best we're
generational.
ever gonna have. Yeah, I love her. But yeah, she gets 3 years probation, bunch of other small add-ons that are so ridiculous, and the hardest one of all, she gets banned for life.
Yeah.
from skating, which is just, I mean, her face when she finds that out is just heartbreaking.
Well, what she says is like, because I got the quote here, like, they got
Yeah.
18 months. I'll do that. Your Honor, I don't have an education. All I know is skating. I'm no one if I can't. I'm not this monster. I'm trying to do the best with what I have to do. It's like giving me a life sentence. You can't do that. Which is like, it's true because like she got
Hmm.
pulled out of school for this, and she's
And
how
sometimes
old
her
is this now? Like
choice.
in 30s maybe, like
She's, yeah,
like
barely.
like late 20s, early 30s.
Yep.
Like this is all she knows, and it's been taken away from her.
Yeah.
It's
No, thank you for
heartbreaking.
having that quote because I did not have that written down. So I'm glad
No,
that you did.
gotcha. Because I saw life sentence, and I'm like, that is, yeah, it is. It is.
It's her life sentence.
Yeah,
Yeah. She would have much rather done the like barely 2 years that they got.
easily. Yeah,
And she
absolutely.
could have easily moved on and just knowing her, she would have just gone right back to trying to skate after that. So
She would have survived comfortably in prison as well.
yes,
Yeah,
100%.
no one would have
That would have
fucked with
been nothing
Tonya.
for her.
Yeah, that
She's
would have
been
been.
beat to shit. She's had hardly any meal. She would have been fine.
Yeah, should have been totally sweet.
So yeah, really heartbreaking there. And then just to kind of end it off, she becomes a boxer in the early 2000s, just, beating the shit out of people, getting the shit beat out of her. Nothing that, she can't take after basically life already beat her down as much as possible. And then we get this final quote where it's in the interview scene. Obviously, we have more of the interviews back and forth. I didn't really write down every single moment there because it's sort of just wrapping up the movie. But I really like the way that Tonya ends it off. And I'm not sure if I have this exactly right, but I believe it's mostly right. She's basically saying that there's no such thing as the truth. Everyone has their own truth, and life just does whatever the fuck it wants.
Yep.
I love that. I think that is such a perfect way to end this woman, this character, this real life person, obviously, that we've kind of gotten to know over the last 2 hours. I think that really just showcases everything, and everything we've kind of built up to this point. So I really love that quote, and I love how they ended it. And then obviously we get to see some updates on the real life people, and then there's those real life footage that you were talking about earlier. So I didn't really write down notes about that because obviously the movie's long enough as it is.
Yeah.
But if you want to add anything about those scenes, feel free. But I had a question for you, and that was if you think she really knew about what they planned to do to Nancy.
I feel like she'd have to. Like, at least not know. She would have had to have an inclination that something's
Hmm.
happening. Like, but I want to believe that she didn't, but I feel like she'd have to at least
I
know
know that's how I feel
something's
too.
happening, right? Like, you're not that, like, oblivious. Especially when you got people around you that are so shady and then something like this happens and the timing is impeccable.
Right.
Like
Especially after
surely,
she started to kind of go downhill and kind of not do as well. And,
yeah,
she was not super happy with getting fourth place originally. So I feel like, it's not crazy to think she knew in some fashion, but it is hard because you do kind of feel like you start to love this person by the end. Like you feel for her
yeah,
watching the film. So it's hard to imagine she could have done something like that. But also the way she was raised and the type of relationship she was in, she wouldn't have even known any better. She didn't know anything about respect
yeah,
or about, real actual care for people. She was never taught that. So it's not even fully her fault, to be honest.
yeah.
But yeah, I was just curious what you thought. So any final thoughts, any scenes you want to talk about that I haven't talked about yet, or anything, of that nature, and then your final score.
Yeah, so like you said that that final quote from Tonya is like kind of what encapsulates the movie for you. My quote that encapsulates the movie for me is from one of her interviews where she goes, "Most people's impression of me that I'm a real person, you know. I never apologize for growing up poor or being a redneck, which is what I am, you know. And it's a sport where the friggin' judges want you to be this old timey version of what a woman is supposed to be." For being the first woman, for being the first U.S. woman to land a triple axel, so fuck them. Like,
Love it.
and I was like,
Love it.
that's her entire character. That's the entire film in a way of just like,
Yeah, and it starts that's in the beginning. That
yeah,
quote is in the first 5 minutes.
yeah. I adore it. But like, yeah, the whole she's a because she says at the end that like she was the second most well known person on the planet at that time. And that's kind of like without skating, her life's gone to shit, and she has to basically just cling on to public limelight. And that's kind of why she goes into boxing
Hmm.
and which is kind of hilarious because that's like influencer boxing, which is kind of now a bit huge.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I love the ending of this film. I thought it was pretty damn good. I really hope she didn't do it, but who knows? at the end of the day. But I think that as a whole, this film is brought on by its tone and its performances, and in that realm was great. Is this going to be a film that I'm going to reference in my top 10 sport movies of all time? No, but this is going to be a movie that I'm going to recommend to people who are looking for like a fun, like satirical type film, like anything Adam McKay does. Which again, we know that Adam McKay didn't do this, but you can't watch this and not think that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, yeah, Margot, this is another step towards Margot's legacy sort of thing. That's how I kind of see it. Like, it's not her best performance, but again, it's another rung on that ladder that like she's just climbing up to be like one of the greats. Yeah, I think this movie's thoroughly enjoyable. It's really well told, beautifully edited, great performances. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think a 4 out of 5 is very just for this.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the first time I watched it, I gave it a low 4.5. I just was like so in awe of the performances that, like you mentioned, that it just to me felt like something so special and something so unique in the biopic
Yeah,
sphere. This is before I had seen a lot of biopics. Now I feel like I've seen a lot more now because they've become more and more popular. So I did
people
lower it
love
to a
them.
4. Yeah, they
Now
really do. They
nowadays
really do.
we're in an age of product biopics, which is
Mm-hmm.
like Dumb Money is a product
Right.
biopic. Like, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. It's an interesting time for sure. But yeah, I really weirdly the word I want to use is adore this film, which it's weird to say because it's such a weird,
It's a
crazy roller coaster of a story.
it's a weird comfort
Um,
movie, for sure.
yeah,
I get what you
but
mean though.
I could see it becoming that. Like, I don't know, for me, because I'm not a huge sports person, I could see this being like a top 10 sports movie for me personally, because I just find figure skating to be so impressive and so intense what these people put themselves through to train and to really, they didn't really go that hard into the side of like what it takes to get to that point of
Yeah,
talent. But I think that because this one focuses more on the drama and the thriller aspects, it does lose me a little bit in the middle. There's just so much going on that it does sometimes become too much. I think it's a little too long, maybe. That's part of it for me. So on rewatch, it didn't quite hit the same, but I still love it. I agree with everything you said. I think the editing is so cool. I think the soundtrack is amazing. I think the direction is really interesting, and I love all the different like undertones and the comedy within this heartbreaking story. And I think, like you said, the performances are really where it's sold. And I think that Margot Robbie, it's definitely a top performance of hers. I wouldn't say it's the best, but she definitely takes herself outside of her normal scope of character that we've seen her in, which in that sense, I really appreciate that she did this role because it took her out of her normal, she's the prettiest girl in the room role and really put her into a character that I
for
would say is the
sure.
complete opposite of her in real life, which is really awesome. So,
It gave me like
definitely a great film.
definitely different realms of different ends of the spectrum, but it gave me Charlize Theron in Monster vibes.
Yeah.
Monster Ball. Well,
I haven't seen that movie, but I've seen the pictures of her
yeah,
from that and know what
and
you're
you can
talking about.
yeah well, I think it's like stereotypically gorgeous people.
Hmm.
But like again, like they take a role like this where you step away from being just like from the basis being the hot person in here, and you build off
Hmm.
that. It's like no, the basis here is her character. Like
And not that she's ever remembered for being the hot one. Like even in The Wolf of Wall Street, she like steals the show at times, and it's not
yeah,
because she's hot; it's because of her role. So it's like she's always been able to do that. But I agree with what you're
I
saying,
get what you mean.
100%.
But like being like a lead,
Yes.
is like a lead like this. I absolutely agree. I think this is a incredible performance for her, but it's like one that she needs on her filmography to like
Yep.
kind of keep getting. I'm sure she would have already kept getting these sort of roles, but like kept getting these roles where it just shows range for her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, that is what we think of I, Tonya. Just a fantastic movie. But we're gonna move into the end of the pod here, and that's our draft. So
Why do you
hopefully this
see?
is
You sound
fun.
so defeated at the end.
No, it's just, it's always like it's always kind of sad when it ends because I feel like it's gonna like, be a long episode and it has been, but then all of a sudden we're done talking about the movie now.
Amen. Yeah.
So time just flies when you're having fun, I guess. Isn't that what they say, Harry?
What did Gandalf say? Death is not the end. It's mainly the beginning.
It is. It really is.
Amen.
Okay. So we're doing 10 each, which is a lot, but since it's just the two of us,
What
we
is
wanted
this,
to
sir?
make sure. Hmm?
What is this? The. Did we say it's a draft?
Yes, the draft.
Oh, my
Sorry,
bad.
I did say it, but I'll say it again. Yeah, we're
My
doing a
bad.
draft. I didn't say what it was though.
Oh,
We're each going to be picking 10, and we're going to be
beauty.
doing films from our main three actors from I, Tonya. So we're changing it up a little bit, different type of draft. We're doing Margot Robbie films, Sebastian Stan films, and Alison Janey films. They do not have to be the star of the film. So it could be a supporting role, a smaller role. We would not have enough movies to draft if it was just leading roles.
Yeah.
And the one main thing you have to check off the list is that you need to make sure you have at least one film from each actor. And
Yep.
I, Tonya cannot count as that movie.
Yep. So we can draft I, Tonya, but it's not going to count
Yes.
as like that checkbox. Got
It
it.
only counts as one of those actors. So you can't have that be your only Alison Janey, for
Yep.
example, your only Sebastian Stan. Which I think there's enough variety with these
Yeah,
actors here. I don't see
think
it
that's going to be a
happening.
risk. Yeah, it's not going to be a risk. Don't worry
But
about
I just
it.
wanted to make sure we at least had variety. So I wanted to at least have that rule, but I don't
Love it.
think it's going to be an issue with us. So I'm gonna let you go first because I'm so nice.
That is
And we're just gonna
nice.
go back and forth. So
Okay.
just regular.
I appreciate that. So yeah,
Yeah.
we got 10 in total, right?
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna go Alison Janey first,
Okay.
and I'm gonna go 10 things ahead about you.
Unexpected, but I dig it. That's a great character for her.
Might be recency bias,
Maybe.
but
Maybe.
god damn, I love that movie.
Oh, yeah, me too. Okay. All right. Well, that was definitely on my list, obviously. I love that movie.
It's great.
But I think for me, I'm going to go with an iconic one for myself. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I'm going with a Margot Robbie pick, and I'm taking The Wolf of Wall Street.
Nice, I like that. I had to go high.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I know people don't love it as much as I do, but I have an absolute blast every time I watch it. And I think it just really showcases how talented she is early on in her career.
Yeah, like I think I definitely like it less than you, but I like it's you cannot deny that it's brilliant.
Right.
Oh, I want that, but I think that might get back to me. There's just this is my problem. Like everyone says, like the end of drafts is the hardest time. I wholeheartedly disagree. I think the beginning is the hardest, where
I
there's
agree.
where
You don't know what to take. You don't know how early
exactly
to take it. Yeah.
exactly. You start second guessing yourself. I might go a Margot Robbie, and again, her filmography is fucking amazing.
No.
And go About Time.
Oh, great pick.
Got two romance on here. Look at me.
Yeah. Geez.
I'm a little heartthrob at the moment.
Hopeless romantic over there.
Amen.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm. I think that'll get back to me. So, okay, I am going to take another Margot Robbie. And I'm going to take Babylon.
Yeah, good. Again, like I was weighing up between those two to be honest. Oh, yeah, I was weighing. Oh,
Yeah.
we'll see.
There's some great picks. She's in a lot of my favorite movies, I'll be honest. But yeah, that one I think is just such an epic film. I mean, I got two epic films back to back here, but I think Babylon is just so special.
Well, I'm gonna go Sebastian Stan. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna corner off my requirements first, and then
Okay. Smart.
I'm gonna go Black Swan.
Ooh, that's a surprise. Okay. I had that on my list, but I wasn't sure. It's not one that I've watched recently enough to like have strong opinions on. I need to rewatch it before I actually rate it,
Yeah,
but I do remember liking it.
and I have such a tried and tested relationship with Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
Oh my
Okay.
god! Wait, I think I fucked up. Yeah, tell me which one you're picking.
I might surprise you here, but I'm going with my Sebastian Stan now. And this
Okay.
is one of my favorite Marvel movies. It always has been. And I think he is just so fantastic in it. And that's The Winter Soldier.
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
Or I should say Captain America, The Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was thinking the other
Yeah,
one.
you're thinking the other one. I
Yeah,
know.
my bad. Nice. Okay, cool. Here we get a bit of fun here. Okay, I'm gonna leave that. Oh, do I leave? Okay, I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit.
Do it.
I'm gonna go my number 4. I'm gonna go a recent-ish one. Was it 2020? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, love it.
I feel like
You know, it's one of my
love.
favorite movies,
Yeah,
but people are weird on that one. It's
I
hit or
don't get
miss.
that. I love that film. Like, I don't think it's Tarantino's best, but but when people say it is,
Top three for me.
I don't think it's a hot take at all. In my opinion, I think it's brilliant.
I think it's crazy when people say it's boring. I don't think there's a boring part of
Oh,
that
it's
movie.
this
I don't get that at
this
all.
new fucking generation, man, full of snowflakes. Fuck you all.
That's a
Except for
great
you.
pick. I was going to take it, but I felt like Babylon was that's where my heart was going. So
No, I love that. Well done.
Great pick. Okay. I need an Alison Janey. So I
On.
have multiple options here. I have a movie that's a deep cut, and I'm going to save it because I think I'm safe to save it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm between two. I'm gonna go with one that I don't know if it's as beloved in the larger film community, but I've adored it forever. Juno.
Damn it! That was what I was like. I'm gonna.
I think her character in that is one of my all-time favorite roles of hers.
Well done.
Junebug.
Yeah.
She's just fantastic.
What's
Her
it?
and J.K. Simmons are just like
No.
iconic parents in that
Yeah.
movie.
What's it? This can't be undid. You did something that just can't be undid, Junebug.
Yeah, and when she's talking about how there's like blue stuff in her vase, and she's like, I don't know how that got there. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's so good. Okay. I'm gonna get some other on here. I'm gonna go Avengers: Infinity War.
Nice. Yeah, that was the one that I figured between that and Winter Soldier would be the two we
Fuck,
got for Sebastian Stan.
I'm jealous of you, Juno.
Sorry. Yeah, it's funny. That's like become like a cult classic. I've loved it since I first saw it. I think I watched it like
Yeah.
pretty close after it came out when I
Yep.
was like in early high school and just adored it.
I'm right there with you. I love that movie. It's. I wonder like how much Orange Tic Tacs sold more after that film came out.
Right?
Yeah,
Probably a lot.
probably a lot.
Um, okay. Ooh, I'm not sure where to go now. Okay. I have checked all my requirements now, so now I can
Yeah.
just kind of draft from the heart.
Yeah, we're all good.
Okay. I think that I am going to take one that is just a bit of a fun movie that I guess gets horror on my list. I'm gonna take Fresh. I like
Oh,
Fresh.
good
People don't
pick.
love
No,
it,
I like
but
Fresh.
I think Sebastian Stan is fantastic in that movie.
The movie's fun, man.
It's such a blast.
Makes you really hungry as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, super hungry. I'm gonna go a little bit of variety here. Oh,
Okay.
wait? Do I go that? Yeah, I'm going to. I'm gonna go a bit of variety here. Alison Janey was in Finding Nemo,
She
so
was.
I'm
I
gonna go
had that on my
find.
list
I'm gonna go
too.
Finding Nemo,
Great pick.
which is also one of the best Pixar films. Do you remember the address?
Something Wallaby Way,
Yep.
17 something Wallaby Way, Sydney, Australia.
P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
P. Sherman, that's right. What is the number?
42
42
Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Peabody, Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Yeah.
Okay.
P. Sherman. Peabody is the guy that's with.
Oh yeah, P. Sherman.
Completely different.
I knew it was wrong when I said it.
That's so funny. Well
That's
done.
great.
Nice. Okay. What you
That was
got?
my only animated one that I was actually interested in taking, to be
Yeah. Same.
honest.
Yeah. Same.
Okay. Ooh, where do I go now? Where do I go? I think save that.
Ooh, I wonder what
You
she's talking
know,
about.
I it could still be recency bias, but
Take it.
I'm gonna take Barbie.
Yeah.
It's just too fun of a movie.
I'm gonna be honest. That was my next pick. So well done.
I
It's
love that movie.
dude. It's
All the
fun as
haters can just F right off.
it's fun as fuck. Like it's nuts. Oh, I love that movie. Movie's great.
Such a tangent. I'm not going to say it too much because I don't want to take up too much time, but I just don't understand like hating it strictly because of the consumerism. Every movie, every big franchise movie, everything that's like in the billion-dollar group of movies is a form of consumerism. So
Yeah.
why all of a sudden, because it's Mattel making it, that it's like a problem for people? I don't really get it.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make any sense. Like if
That's my
people,
tangent.
but people are still okay to give money to Disney and
Yeah,
Universal,
exactly.
and where do you draw the line here? It's a
Exactly.
dangerous hill to stand on. Okay, cool. Speaking of Adam McKay, I'm gonna go to Big Short.
Nice. That was going to be my next pick. So great job.
Nice,
Very small role she has, and she's playing herself technically, but
but
we're going to
it's
count it.
so good. Now fuck
We're
off.
gonna count it.
It's so good.
I don't know, Harry. That movie is, I don't know, not very good.
Movie's fucking awesome.
I'm just saying, I love that movie. Shout out Cam Walsh. He's a real one. He knows.
He understands.
Okay, now I'm not sure. Now I'm getting into like the territory of like I like it, but I'm not like super tied to anything.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think I'm gonna go with a fun summer movie, coming of age,
Damn
that
it.
has Alison Janney.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I just said Janey, and I'm gonna take the way way back.
Yeah, Maury's starting to write it. Great one. I love that movie.
So good. I can't wait to rewatch it this summer.
Sam Rockwell in that movie is
So
so
good.
good. Yeah, good work. That's great.
Okay.
Okay. Well, now we kind of get to the. Okay, I'm gonna go Sebastian Stan. I like the book more, but the movie's still great. I'm gonna go The Martian.
Okay. That's what I thought you were gonna say. Great pick. I need to rewatch that movie. That's another one where I don't feel comfortable like rating it until I rewatch it, but I
Yeah,
remember liking it a lot.
the book is so much better. Like, not
Which
so
one's
much
that?
better. There's like a couple of elements. Like, you've seen the film, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the film, where he does like a hole in the suit and like uses his like jetpacks,
Mm-hmm.
in the book they're like, he's like, should I like puncture a hole? And he's just like, what do you think? You're fucking Iron Man? Are you stupid? You die in a second. They say that in the book, but in the movie they just do it. And I'm like,
That's so funny.
I love
I
it.
feel like a line that would be like made up, like that it wouldn't
Yeah,
actually be written. That's so funny.
so good.
Love that pick. Okay.
But the rest of the
Hmm.
movie's great.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch it so I can actually like properly write a review about it. But I do remember really enjoying it. I
Yeah,
love Matt Damon. He's
yeah.
always great.
So do I. I think he's. I reckon Matt Damon would be a good guy to have a beer with. You know.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
Now we're getting to the fucking.
I know. I have always loved this film. I think it's one of the best female ensemble casts, and so I'm gonna take The Help.
Nice.
Talk
Oh,
about just a
nice.
masterclass of acting with all of the actresses that are in this.
Makes you really want to eat some pie as well.
Oh God, Viola Davis and Emma Stone. I mean, it's just like endless people. Bryce Dallas Howard, Jessica Chastain, Octavia Spencer, Alison
So good.
Janey. Like it just never ends.
Um, I'm pretty sure this won Best Picture. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
American Beauty.
yeah, it did.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sam Mendes, right?
yeah. Sam Mendes. That's what I was trying to think of. What a fucking catalog he has.
Yeah, I've never been as big into American Beauty as other people, but I still enjoy it. I think it's still a really
I
good
think it's
movie.
good for a ninth round pick.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
don't think it deserves to be higher. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but
I think you perked it. God, I cannot talk today.
yeah,
Picked it at the right time.
gee whiz.
I was thinking about Miss Perky. See, she was on my
Yeah, that's
mind.
true.
So
That's true.
Allison Janey's fault. Okay. Well, I think at this point, I feel comfortable taking. Mm,
It's
no, I'm gonna take it because I just don't know if you've seen it. I don't think you have, but I'm gonna take it just in case because I don't want to miss out. Drop Dead Gorgeous.
damn
If you
it.
haven't seen it,
That was my next
have you seen
pick.
it?
Yeah, that was gonna be my 10th.
Dude, this movie is one of my favorites of all time. I have been a Drop Dead Gorgeous like supporter since I was 10 years old. I just want to put that out there
Well
because
done.
now it's becoming popular again. I'm an OG, 20 years in with this movie. Allison Janney's character is so
Yeah,
hilarious.
I was gonna try and snake that at the 10th.
Nope,
I'm glad.
you
Well,
can't fool me, Harry.
no, well done for taking that night though. Well done. Okay, well now our last ones.
Hmm.
Hmm. Now that this is tough because there's like a couple on here, but even though I've already got one Marvel, I'm gonna go another Marvel.
Okay.
Um, um, I thought this was. I think Infinity War is the best Marvel movie ever made, but I think Endgame is the most important and had like the most pressure on it. So Avengers Endgame.
Nice. You got the little back-to-back Avenger finale movies there.
In some ways, people see it as one movie. You know, it's a part
I
one, part
know.
two, and
Okay.
finish it off.
Now you've left me unsure because I thought maybe you were going to take one of these two that I had left.
I know the two. Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it Logan Lucky and Dumb Money?
No.
Oh, was it I Tonya and The Hours?
It's I, Tanya, and the Suicide Squad, James Gunn
Yeah,
version.
I'm not a big fan of that movie.
Oh, really? I like
Yeah,
that movie. But I think I'm gonna take I, Tanya because I really like it and I think it deserves to be on the list and we can't not draft it for
yeah,
this
well done. Yeah, that's fair
episode.
enough.
So I feel comfortable taking that last.
Nice. No, that's a good
I haven't
pick.
seen Logan Lucky actually, so
Oh, watch Logan Lucky. That's good fun.
I'll have to add it to my list.
That's good fun. Yeah, ones that missed out on my list I Tonya got done, Logan Lucky, Dumb Money, Civil War, Captain America
Yeah.
Civil War, and The Hours from Alison Janey.
Yeah, I was thinking Civil War too. That was kind of on my short list. And then I think that Hot Tub Time Machine was more like a fun little pick if I ran
That
out
would
of
have been
options.
fun.
But I don't think it's like a great movie, but Sebastian Stan plays a great dick in that movie.
That's right. Yeah, he's great. I've got it written
Awesome.
down. Do me
Yeah,
cool.
run through it.
So Ash went for Wolf of Wall Street, Babylon, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Juno, Fresh, Barbie, The Way Way Back, The Help, Drop Dead Gorgeous, and I Tonya. Harry, I went 10 Things I Hate About You, About Time, Black Swan, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Avengers: Infinity War, Finding Nemo, The Big Short, The Martian, American Beauty, and Avengers: Endgame. All great movies.
Two solid lists. Yeah.
Couple of solid ones.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Nice. Well, that wraps up our draft and our episode. So thank you so much for listening and follow us on everything. I think we're on everything as far as social media platforms, TikTok, X, Twitter, whatever you call it, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Appreciate you listening. And next week, since we like to tell you guys what we're watching, we will be breaking down Warrior, which is a great boxing movie. So yeah, excited. What?
It's UFC. It's an MMA film. It's not
boxing. MMA. I'm so sorry. No. How dare I?
So I'm just saying it because there'll be some people being like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
please don't come for me. Please don't. I don't know enough about it. But yes, I do actually enjoy MMA, so I do apologize for that mistake. But yes, we're watching Warrior, so check that out if you want to kind of be able to follow along with us next week.
Is this a first watch for you?
Joining us? Huh?
Is this a first watch for you of Warrior?
No, I've seen it before.
Okay.
I like it a lot.
I love
Warrior. It'll be a second watch for me.
Yeah, Warrior's one of my favorites.
So I'm excited to rewatch it. It's been a hot minute. So nice. Yeah, watch that if you want to be able to break down the episode with us. But thanks for listening. And I'm Ash. Got my dynamic duo partner here, Harry. And that's it for today.
The Lone Ranger signing out.
Signing off.